attest to your meditation. You didn't hear this as the scratchy fingernails against the blackboard. You're doing really good. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Dharma this Sunday. Just a few announcements. We've started our move to the new Academy and Temple Dharma Center this past Friday. We'd like to thank the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, Venerable Panawati, Elsa, David and his helper, Dina, his helper Hoot, thank you. Dina, Dave and Michelle, and Joe, Kay, Bill, and the residents and the monastics as we worked very hard Friday to start getting ourselves situated over in Horseshoe. We'll be continuing to do that in the future, so if you would like to start coming to see our new place and help us with this move, we would love to have you. So contact any of us and let us know if you can. We don't have a date yet when our next little shuttle will be, but it will be soon. Services will start there in Horseshoe beginning January 10th around 11 a.m. or at 11 a.m. And we're hoping on January 10th. To offer donations, please see our website for further information. We have a lovely web page where you just push on the button and you can select the areas that you would like to, or just do a general fund donation. And when you come through our mother house, we now have a Donna shop. And that's over in the front area by the stairways. Please take a look if there's anything there that you would like for gifting to others, or you might find a need, or you just want to bring it to a different place, please donate. All right, thank you all for coming today. A week before Christmas. Oh my goodness.
Thrifty trash.
Since burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. All Buddhas smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. With utmost sincerity, all Buddhas appear. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage, we offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas.
It's so good to see everybody today. I was thinking about what we talk about today. And as usual, 5 or 6 things come to my mind. And I said, so we must have a lot of different minds here today, because it's going to seem like I'm jumping all over the place. But a lot of times our mind is like that. It's jumping all over the place. In the simile of the cloth, that's Sutta number 7. There was a question posed to the hearers. It said, suppose the cloth were defiled and stained, and a dyer dipped it in some dye or other, whether blue or yellow or red or pink. It would look poorly dyed and impure in color. Why is that? Because of the impurity of the cloth. So too, when the mind is defiled, an unhappy destination may be expected. Unhappy destination, meaning whatever we think and ponder on, that becomes the inclination of our mind. And the way we turn our mind is takes us towards our recompense. So whenever something is happening to me, I always ask the question, what is my state of mind? And what has been my state of mind? Our usual go-to is to look and see who's bothering me, who's bothering me, or what has happened? Who has done something? Why is this trouble upon me? And we're always looking out there for some culprit, for some reason, something apart from ourselves. But the spiritual masters say that all conditions are due to causes. And it says that whenever something comes upon you that seems like such a trial, that rather than our first go-to places to see who has done something to me, who's trying to harm me, that we should always look and check up with ourselves, because there's a peace and a happiness that comes when one knows that they are without fault. And it said that even when trials or circumstances or conditions come upon us, if we will look inwardly and know that we are without fault, then we are able to surmount and handle the condition that comes upon us. Because within that kind of mind, that faultless mind is a Buddha land. So we don't have to seek out there for a Buddha land. Everything that we're doing in all of our practice is to try to recognize our intrinsic original nature that cannot be upset, overturned, or destroyed by anything external to us. So when we find spiritual people fighting, then we know they're not practicing. And when they know they're not practicing, we should practice harder. Because in practicing harder, we create an environment, a circumstance for the just person to get up and go again. The Bible said a righteous man falls 7 times and gets up again. We like to concern ourselves with the fall, but it's about the getting up again. And that means that even when you're going through a difficult time in your life, if you don't let your heart sink because of the circumstances, you could easily get up and go again. And it also means that when you look out around you at circumstances that other people are going through, you won't dump on them your negativity based on how you feel about things. If we want to know how to be happy in every situation, sometimes it means that we have to not listen to the history that's stored in our mind, because that history comes from the information that we've gathered by what we see and hear and taste and touch and smell and think. So it's all of that information has come from the outside. Where then can any peace come from unless one turn inward? And so all these practices we do are just about that. You know, I used to love being in the church because, you know, I could just think about Jesus all day long and get happy. If I got sad, I'd think about Jesus. You know, not what he suffered, because everybody would be talking about Jesus on the cross, but I'd be thinking, but he got up. You know, and that's where my joy came from. That's why I abandoned the Orthodox church and I went with the Pentecostals and the Charismatics, because they had a good story to tell. The rest left him on the cross. See how he died on Calvary. But I read the back of the book. And so I was happy all the time. But he said something there. No, see, I believe the whole story. Not the part that he was good or that he was qualified, he was capable, he was able to overcome the trials of samsara. I didn't just read that part. I read the end that said, and we were like him. So we are capable too. We have the potential. It just has to be realized. So yes, we do all of this practicing. But there's another aspect of it that we don't talk about that much in Buddhism, but we should. And the reason we don't is because we didn't want to make it seem too much like a religion. But if you got to hang up with the word religion, use another word. Just pick a word that won't make you feel bad or won't make you feel like, oh, I'm going back to how I was raised and they did this to me in the church and they did that. Forget all of that. Every single experience that you've had, you should be thankful for, because it brought you to this place right here, right now. How else did you get here? So all the things that you have an objection to, one needs to go back and review and see how they have benefited us. and brought us to where we are right now, what we liked and what we didn't like. Sometimes, I observe others to see how to be, to see how I can be better, how I should carry myself, how I should think. And I can look at their good works. I can listen to their good words and say, oh, that I could speak like that. Or I could, if that had happened to me, then you see the vampire getting up. Not even Ponywadi, you see Diane rising, and she's been gone a long time, dead a long time, but every once in a while she sits up, But I thought, oh, if I could have said it that way, it would have changed the whole situation. But it's not only just seeing what others do, it's emulating that. Now, when do we need to emulate something that is good and wholesome and beneficial? It's when the circumstance calls for it. So if we never have a circumstance that calls for it, we won't get any practice at being better in those circumstances. And that's why we can be grateful even when trials come our way. If we use it for a time to better ourselves. I mean, I can say I want to be patient all day long as nobody bothers me. But if I have the challenge of allowing, what did they say? That whole nature that's already resident in me, I have to give it a chance to show itself before I'm convinced. And that means that there's a circumstance that pops up, and there I have that opportunity. And I try to remember what I said I would be, how I would act, how I carry myself when that moment came, when somebody said that to me. And so the Buddha says that the greatest practice that we have is overlooking a slight, tolerating a fault, being able to deal with it when somebody is coming at you in a certain way that's unseemly, being able to go through something, being able to hold your peace. And we always admire the person that can. We wouldn't want to be them, but we always admire them. But it gives us a chance to know ourselves, to know who we are. So a lot of the issues that we have with others, excuse me, it's not really concerned with others. But we've always been taught to look out there, find out what the problem is, and mitigate it. But the sages tell us, look in here, find out what the problem is, and mitigate it. And then you're free. You're free from the vicissitudes of life. And you're free from being able to be overcome or overridden by any man. Now, sometimes this means winning. And sometimes it means losing outwardly. Sometimes it means that you are praised, but sometimes you're blamed. So if somebody praises you and says, I think you did the right thing, somebody blames you and says, I think you did the wrong thing, you're at fault, then where will you be? If you only have those two opinions, you'll be split. But when one knows oneself, and one has set a standard for oneself, and one measures themselves against that standard, then they know whether they are praiseworthy or whether they're blameworthy. It's that confusion about what I am that sets us off. I don't know what I am till you tell me. Oh, I think you did the right thing, Ponywadi. I don't think you should have done that, Ponywadi. Now I've got something going on here. But when a man knows himself, and he knows from within whether his action was blameworthy, sometimes it looks good outside. It looks good out there. Depending on who you're hanging with, It looks good out there, but one knows inside whether they're praiseworthy or whether it was blameworthy. Sometimes we know how to act in a certain way. We know how to back it up. I can back it up with a sutra, with a chapter and a verse. I can back up my action so that makes it look right. But inside, I can know that I had a different relationship with that situation. And sometimes on the outside, we don't show our best, but we know inside that we were not at fault. He says, so what do you do in a time like that? You know you're not at fault. And he talks about being able to go to the next step, and that is to tolerate the faults of others. There's very little toleration happening in the world today. We have very, very little toleration. And I was looking and I could see how well we have been working this past year by things that my book, Yours Should Be As Worn As Mine. If I drop it, we're lost because it's compound. And I have a new book, but you know how you like familiar friends? This is my familiar friends. I like the old ones because we have history together. We have an intimacy. You know, half of what I say in the Dharma talk doesn't even need to be said. But the reason that I say these things, these offshoots, is so that the other half that does need to be said can penetrate. I just learned that because I read it. Buddha Masters said it. And I said, oh, I'm like that. I talk about some of everything, you know. But it's a way of dropping something, circling, and then circling back around to it by giving you something that you can agree with, then go back to that thing that you need to work on. So it doesn't sound like this, you know. Yeah, because some of this can be hard to hear and it can be difficult to understand. But once you take away the pointedness of it, then you can say, yeah, that's right. That's right. Even if you don't do it, you can say, yeah, that's right. But it's going down in because you're hearing it again and again and again. And one day when you need it, it's just going to pop right up because it gets hidden in the heart and it rises up at the time that you need it. It's like we don't need much sitting right here, right now. But what happens when we walk out that door? Well, sometimes before we walk in the door, so I'm not going to talk about the card that's in my pocket space. But I had planned to talk about it when I came in. But now it doesn't matter that much to me. So other thoughts came to my mind, like, okay, block the car. that was Diane, you know. Piney White was glad the person was here. You know, so sometimes we're like three people. All these different thoughts that move around in our mind, and we choose. Which one will you choose? If you had a choice, which one would you choose? Now, the egocentric mind, that one that's wrapped, steeped in personality, and that knows itself like that, will choose the one that's most self-serving. The bodhisattva mind, the one that is destined for, searching for, looking for, embracing awakening, which is It's just simply to recognize their true self. That one would be glad that whoever drove it and parked it there was here. And then you have the one in the middle that's kind of leaning this way and leaning that way. So you see that that one is the one that's unstable in all her ways, unstable. So you have to ask yourself, how stable are you? You know, when we don't do right, or when we're not thinking the most wholesome thought, we know. We say we don't know, but we know. We know. We can actually see it arising. It's just where we choose to cut it off. Well, just to entertain it for a minute. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to think about it. You know how it is. And get some satisfaction. Like, but I'm not going to do it. You know, just get some satisfaction. And when we entertain thoughts in that way, we concretize, we solidify, we incline the mind towards a certain way of being that is totally wrapped up in what's beneficial for oneself. And our personality develops in that way. So actually, the less personality we have, the closer we are to righteousness. We think it's so important to be a certain way, to have a certain view, to express. We think that it's powerful. We think that it's also a protection. But actually, it's the opposite of all those things. And it doesn't mean that we're just like what do you want? Whatever you want. What do you like? Whatever you like. Where you want to go? Wherever you want to go. It doesn't mean like that we're completely mindless. We have no idea about anything. Doesn't mean that we don't have preferences. We're just not attached to them. You can have a preference, just don't be attached to it. And you'll find that you can get along anywhere. You can go with just about anything that happens. Matter of fact, that concerns you personally, is what I'm saying. And when you're in that space, then when you see something happen out there that's not right, you're not carried away any one way or the other. That's what allows us to be in the middle place, in the middle ground. So instead of seeing a victim and a perpetrator, for instance, in that middle way, you can see that the perpetrator is a victim as well. And you won't be afraid to speak honestly, even to the one that's being taken advantage of, to that one who things are happening to. You won't overlook their faults. You won't think that they're perfect and without fault. You know, part of the reason we can't come to any agreement about how to relate to one another is because we're all in on this side, or we're all in on that side. And when we're all in on any one side, then it's distorted. There's a distortion. And so I remember when they would be trying so hard to get me, all around the country to use my voice to try to speak against a particular way of treatment. That's not my job, because my heart is with the victim and with the perpetrator. It's with both equally. And that can be hard. That can be hard, but that's where our practice comes in. That's where, if we want to be more than an ordinary person, I'm speaking of now. If you just want to be ordinary, well then, what you see is what you get. But if you want to be more than that, more than that. If you want to be that one that you admire, I'm always saying everybody loves a martyr, but nobody wants to be one. But a martyr takes a central seat in a controversy. And he holds that ground. He just holds that ground. He holds that ground. Doesn't mean he doesn't have a view, but he surrenders his view to hold the ground. And the more we try to do that, the more we become enabled to hold the ground. Now, I'm speaking about when we get out in the street and we're around all kinds of different people. It's pretty easy for us to hold the ground here because we are of one mind. We're like a fish in a school of fish. You know, so we go this way, we all go this way, we all go this way. And that's real good. But that's, it serves a purpose. You know, kind of it doesn't mean that we're all of one mind. But we come together with an agreement to hold a certain harmony. And I might be on the fringe of that harmony. You might be dead in the center, and you might be leading, and somebody might be bringing up the rear. But we don't go so far away that we lose the group. But when we get out there, it's like every man for himself, every fish swimming in some direction. Big fish, little fish, nibbling on the tail. You know, some with big teeth, some with no teeth. And that's why it's important for us to have a group of people that we can be with, that we can remember who we are, remember what our great aspirations are, remember how we want to be in the world, how we want to live and move and have our being. And so we come to get fortified, be put in remembrance. Yeah. But where we put it into practice is when we get out there. What can we do with ourselves out there? And so we practice. And it's not always easy. But we have to remember the 5 fetters, the things that bind us to the mentality of this world. And if we remember them, then we know and we can use that wisdom to carry us across. The fjord. I like that word. When I was in school, I think in 7th grade, and then, you know, in 7th grade, you study Norway and stuff like that, you know. So I like, that was a great year. You know, I learned these new words, and I guess they're Norwegian words, but the fjord. And it was better than saying cross the river, you know, cross the fjord. I don't know if a fjord is exactly a river, but as I recall, it was something like that. Mm-hmm. So he says, remember that doubt is a lower fetter. So the one who's always doubting himself. Usually we're talking about having a kind of arrogance, the I know kind of mindset, you know. But listen, in this particular sutta, this is sutta number 64, it talks about doubt in oneself being a fetter. Oh, I'm so unworthy. I'm so unworthy. Flagellating ourselves. It's like I don't really want to hear it. I don't want to hear it because, you know, it's not a truth. I'm so unworthy. If all conditions are produced by causes, then to even have the opportunity to hear certain wonderful truths, you must have created the causes to produce that condition. I used to think when I first met Buddha Master, it was due to the grace of the Master that I was called. He said, I won't call nobody. He said, it's your own good works that caused you to be here at this time, to hear this wonderful Dharma. I stopped thinking that way. And it was okay because, you know, gratitude lays a pathway for you to enter into high places. So yes, we come with that gratitude. No, and that gratitude is a kind of attitude that allows one to be able to receive what's being said, to be able to receive it and for it to drop deep into you so that at the time that you need it, you know, it's like hiding a certain truth in your heart and it rises up at the time that you need it because you let it go all the way in. Not like swishing it around your mouth. But you let it go all the way in and seep down deep. And when that happens, then you can hear a greater truth that takes you even further, that makes you more capable, more enabled. And I'm thinking, not, oh, yeah, it's because of my good fortune. It's because of my good works. One doesn't think that way. One just realizes that I have created this condition that is bearing fruit right here, right now. And then one gains confidence in the path. One gains confidence in what they are holding to rather than being skeptical of what they're holding to. Whether one is skeptical or confident in the teachings has nothing to do with how well the teachings are expressed, but how deeply we take them in. And so when we find that the teachings go down deep, and I'm made of that, it's just like it said, you know, you are what you eat. People who are like really into the health thing, they're constantly talking about you are what you eat, but you also are what you think. And some people pay really close attention to what they eat, what they put in their body, but not so much the mind. They'll hold on to those negative patterns, you know. They won't change their ways on that. They'll change their diet. But even as they're sitting at a spiritual feast with all of this good food laid out, spiritual nutriment, they're like, no, I don't like that. And I don't want that. But they'll try to get you to try all that healthy food, though, because that matters more. But when transformation matters more to you, then you'll take these teachings and you'll put them into practice. When? The times that you don't feel like it. Because that's when they have to be put into practice. That's the only way the transformation occurs. And in this way, you'll overcome the world. We think of overcoming the world as like overcoming people, but it's not. And that's why we're like we are towards one another. Because we think that in order for me to win, I have to triumph over you. But the truth is, we're in this boat together. and we have to triumph over the circumstances of the world. No, this is just one world. There's many worlds. We call them different planes of existence. There are many different worlds right here. I mean, you don't think so? Just stay here one night and let the ghosts come out and be with you. They're not all. What I'm saying is that every world is not someplace else. There are multiple worlds all right here. And you can know that. Some of us want to know, some of us don't want to know, but it still doesn't change the fact. But you could be then in any world and be at peace when you have overcome the worlds with an S on it. So he says, doubt is a lower fetter taught by the Blessed One. He said, I remember adherence to rules and observances as a lower fetter taught by the Blessed One. He said, I remember sensual desire as a lower fetter taught by the Blessed One. So enamored by what we see. We hear something, carried away by what we hear. We taste something, oh, we just love it even to our detriment. You know, we feel something and we act according to our feelings. We smell something, something's repugnant, something's pleasing. And we think something, included thinking. And the thinking part is our greatest challenge, how we think. And that's why we keep going back again and again and again and again. And it's not a lot we have to do to transform, you know, but we just have to do it a lot. We have to do it over and over and over and over and over until we do it without even thinking about it. We act in a certain way without even knowing that we have. We have no, it becomes who we are. It becomes how we are. And it becomes steady. We become steady. A person knows that their heart can dwell safely with us. Or somebody will say to me, you know, like, I'm your friend. Within myself, I know I'm their friend, but they're not mine. I can just know that. Does it mean that I cease to be their friend? No, it's just that I know by their speech and by their actions that they are not my friend. That doesn't mean that I can't still be a friend to them. So it says, I remember ill will is a lower fetter taught by the Blessed One. It is in this way that I remember these 5 lower fetters. So that was doubt. The 5th one is identity view. And that's what I talked about first. So identity view, doubt, sensual desire caught up in what we see and hear and blah, 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 blah. Ill will. Is that 5? That's 4. Identity view, doubt, adherence to rules and observations as a lower fetter, sensual desire and ill will. So adherence to rules and observances. It doesn't mean that we don't have rules and that we don't observe them. But it does mean that just because we follow the rule, like blindly, we follow the rule, it doesn't mean that within our own heart and our own mind, you know, that we have understood it and we have developed a relationship with it that makes the rule beneficial. It's just following the rules. I remember when I first became a nun, and one of the rules we have is that we don't eat after noon in the Theravada tradition. That's not in the Mahayana and not in the Vajrayana. It's just like, it's a rule that we have. For instance, if you, it used to be, it might be different now. When you went in the Catholic Church, the first thing you did was you kneel, you put your knee, you dip your finger in the holy water, gave yourself the sign of the cross, and then you entered. Well, in the Baptist church, we didn't kneel, we didn't dip our fingers in the holy water, we didn't make the sign of the cross, and it didn't mean we were any less spiritual than the Catholics. But it was something about doing that seemed so holy that even though I wasn't a Catholic, I loved to go to the St. Anthony's up the street, because you step in and you smell that incense, that frankincense and myrrh, and it smelled high and holy. And then you looked and we had walls that were made of drywall, but they had huge stone walls, cathedral ceilings. Everything just looked so grand and so close, so much closer to God. And then you dip in the holy water and you make the sign of the cross. And boy, I'll tell you, it like took you somewhere, But you get right outside that church and you cuss somebody out, or you just go back into your old way, but you follow the rule. We had, I started taking some classes. We had catechism. I started doing some of the things that we do, like emulating, following the rules. And I was thinking, wow, I'm close to God now. I'm really getting it. I felt really good, but I wasn't changing. Not because there was anything wrong with any of those things. Not at all. Sometimes I always say, that here we don't play fake it till you make it. But sometimes you do. Because what happens is, as you continually repeat a pattern, if you understand what you're doing, then your mind begins to shift and it begins to incline in that way. So rules are only in place to help the mind incline in a particular way. It's not that there's anything in the rule. So they said, okay, so we don't eat. So what happens is that in the morning, they would bring out like not just one plate, but you'd look and the monks would have 15 sauces of food. Everybody, so they stopped themselves in the morning for breakfast. And us agreed, They would be very particular about the time. Yeah, I hear you talking, but you got to hurry up because I got to go eat because we can't eat after 12. And so they would become, the mind is turned towards that hour. So it's not a true renunciation. For some it is for this sister right here. She goes out with us for lunch. She goes out with us for dinner. She just sits there like this because she's 100% Theravada. I'm Theravada in the morning and I'm Mahayana in the afternoon. And but she does. I mean, she goes and it doesn't bother her at all. I mean, because in her own heart and mind, that is a rule that she takes and 100% embraces it as a form of renunciation for her. You see what I mean? She doesn't separate herself. She doesn't denigrate me because I do eat afternoon. Like you, as you say, you do you and I'll do me. But it means something to her. If I don't, not doing it does not mean a thing to me. It doesn't benefit me. So every rule is not for everybody. But when one can take up a rule that is for them, then you see the beauty of it. But if someone's just doing it because that's the rule, then, and especially if it's a tough rule, for instance, we're supposed to have confession every 2 weeks, twice a month. We have confession. I think there's 2 kinds of moons, whatever it is. What is it? The moons. Yeah, it was just a half new and full. Okay, and so we're supposed to like uh, uh, when think about the things that offenses that we've committed, and we're supposed to confess them. I'm like, why you gotta wait 2 weeks? If you realize this evening that you did that, then you need to come back, take care of it then. Even if you just said it and you realize it wrong, you need to fix it right there. Don't wait. And so we would do our confessions, and our confessions are graded on a scale. Like, this is the worst. If you do this, you're just no longer a monk. Period. And there are 7 of those that if we commit those, then we're no longer considered a monk. I don't care if you wear the robe or don't wear the robe. Nobody will address you or think of you as a monk. And then there's another group that these are bad. So what we're going to do is we're not going to talk to you for a while, so you can see how much you miss the fellowship of the saints. So you're going to be here in the community, but we're just going to consider you person non grata. We're just not going to talk to you. We're going to ignore you, and you're just going to pine for the fellowship. And when we welcome you back into a fellowship in the community in 2 weeks or 1 month or 3 months, you'll be happy to be back with the brethren. And then another one is you need to confess it openly. Don't tell your best friend. You need to confess it. Everybody needs to know, and then you make a commitment not to do it again. And then if it's a lesser offense than that, and they all laid out what these offenses are. If it's a lesser offense, it's a training guideline. If it's a lesser offense than that, then you could just go and tell a sister that you're close to, or a brother that you're close to, one that likes you, and I'll say, sister, I have a confession to make. I stole some food today. I'm stealing food. It's like I ate after afternoon, or sometimes it's ate a forbidden food. Like there's certain a couple of things that we could have afternoon, which is dark chocolate. Hate it, so I would eat milk chocolate. Loved it, but milk chocolate has the milk in it, and milk is not allowable afternoon. So it's got these kind of rules like that, and so or you just sneak that candy bar in the evening and take it to your room. And then the monks told me, you nuns, you all are so over the top. He says there are guidelines, they're training guidelines, but you all are so literal with everything. He said, yes, because we're trying to be better than you all are. And what they would do, they said, well, let me tell you what happens. So when they have capias, I have a capia. Kay is my capia. Kay looks out for me. Whatever I need, she provides it. I don't have to think about it. Kay thinks for me about what I need, and gives me. And so the monks have capias, and capias know what they like know what their monk likes. So they make sure that the monk has what he likes. And so if it's 4:00 and the monk is hungry, a capia, they get to know, because they're with you all the time, what you need or what would be more comfortable for you or whatever. So they would say, time to go to your room. Go to his room, and a whole spread of food is there for him. So whenever I'm staying at a monastery with monks and I see them disappearing, I know what's happening. They just don't want to let the nuns see it, because the nuns follow the rule. But they would go to their rooms and their food is in there. So I said one day, look, I have a problem with this whole issue here, because it's not honest. So I just tell everybody I eat. And so some people say, oh yeah, because she has diabetes, she has to eat food. It's not because of that. I do it because I like it. I think that the rule was designed to help you not be a glutton, but to eat only when hungry. The rule has a purpose. What is the purpose of the rule? How did it come about? That can help you to know the purpose. It came about because they would go around to the village all day long, go in the morning, go in the afternoon, go in the evening, go at night. And the people would give of their best food. So they'd give the best of their dinner to the monk, the best of their lunch to the monk, the best of their breakfast to the monks. And they're constantly coming all day. Buddha said, take care of this in the morning. Go out one time a day. That's it. And don't ask them for anything specific. Whatever they bring to put in your bowl, eat it. And don't separate it and say, oh, that's chocolate cake, put that right there. That's rice, put this right here. They just put it in the bowl. So they became indiscriminate in their taste. No wonder they didn't only want to eat once, because you'd have your stew, your cake, everything, just put them so that you didn't develop likes for taste. You see what I'm saying? I mean, the whole story is in there. So if you can understand the story, and some groups said, well, they came out and we thought it was a ghost outside. And he scared us. So the Buddha said, oh, this is not going to do. He said, you're dependent on the lay people for your food, for your clothing, for your shelter, for your medicine. He said, they're supposed to take care of that. So you shouldn't be over pressing them. Be light on them because they're already taking care of everything that you need. We don't hear that one that much in the West about taking care of the food, the clothing, the shelter, the medicine. But that's the relationship that we're supposed to have. And so following a rule blindly doesn't make one fulfill a rule. But when one understands, the purpose of it, how it came about, how to use it, what its benefits are, then one can be said to be following the rule. So I would say, why do we have to wait 2 weeks, when we've committed a fault? Take care of matters while they're small. As soon as you know you've done wrong in your own eyes, go fix that thing. That's what I do. So no, I'm not getting on your bi-monthly calls, where I'm not doing that. I don't have any because I take care of it as soon as I recognize it, or the next day. My husband one time, he did something and I just latched into him. And he said, I was going to fix it. You didn't give me time. I was going to fix it tomorrow. So for others, we give them time. For ourselves, take care of it immediately. And you'll get so used to taking care of it immediately because you won't feel that kind of guilt, that lingering guilt. You take care of it immediately, you feel better about yourself. You take care of it immediately, and one's heart and mind is clear. One knows that they have heard a good thing and they put it into practice. And they are no longer in doubt about what manner of person they are. And it brings a kind of deep humility. One doesn't think more highly of himself than he ought to think. One is not boastful and proud. One is quick to confess a fault because they recognize, I am not that fault. I am not that. It's so much as taking off a soiled garment. So one doesn't walk around with a lot of guilt piling up, disgust for oneself, feeling like one is unredeemable. and also will not be fooled by the blindness of others. Just because you think a certain thing about me doesn't make that true. But I should know myself. And when one knows oneself, then they can be with anybody. It takes away the need to try to impress others. To try to be, it's hard trying to impress people. Trying to be something. Trying to, needing to be seen, needing to be known, needing to be heard, needing, you can get pretty complete within your own self. But you just don't need that. And when you get that way, it's such a relief, because when you need it from people, then you're dependent upon them. It governs your behavior, how you carry yourself with them. You have to constantly be thinking about how what you can do and what you can say around them. But when you're free, you're not beholden to any man, then you can be beholden to all men. You can walk in a room, and it's like everyone is your brother, because you're only going from what's inside of you, not what's inside of them. I never walk into a room where I'm nervous about the people that are there. I don't care whether it's important people or who we would consider people can't help you much. It doesn't matter. All the same. I'm never worried about what I will say to them. Maybe I should be, but I'm not. I'm not worried about, I'm not really worried about offending them, because I have no desire to offend. And I'm only concerned about how well, I have prepared to be able to be with them. You see, so all the work that we do, we're doing on ourselves. This year, as we step into the new year, that should be our resolution. How we will work on ourselves until we're complete and we're whole and we're lacking in no good thing. Don't worry so much about what the world is doing. It's what will I do? Know that we serve a purpose for being here. And that we can bring something to this world by our presence. And that's all we have to be concerned about. If I'm perfume and I come into the room, you will smell my fragrance. I don't have to try to do anything. Just I am perfume. Give up the trying. Abandon that. And just start being what you say you are. These 5 fetters, a fetter is something that ties you, tethers you, so that you can't get away. Identity, doubt, adherence to rules and regulations without really understanding the purpose and cultivating the attitude that that rule is designed to embed in you. Ill will, and so caught up with everything we see and hear, and all the rest. See, hear, think. Those are the main ones. And as one endeavors to lay those things down, to divest themselves of self, then one really sees the other and knows how to respond to the hurt, to the confusion, you know, knows how to soothe and calm the angry beast, and how to give solace to the one that is suffering, how to encourage the one that's downtrodden. We can be that for someone. But first, we have to be it for ourselves. A lot of us want to save everybody, and we're lost. Find yourself. And when you find yourself, you will forget the self. And you will become the 10,000 things. Thank you for coming today. And I wanted to play a song, but I couldn't find it as we were ending the year. I think it's July the 11th. Okay, I think that's the one, because it's 2 minutes. It was just a happy song because I was thinking about Buddha Master this morning. I got an email from Busita. We're closing now. I got an email from Busita, and Busita. I was thinking about Panyadeepa, and I have an altar at the top of my bed, and so when I sit up in the morning, there's his picture on the altar, and I had Buddha Masters on my altar, but I put his right across from me, so that when I'm thinking about watching TV too much, I look over and I say, like, okay, I get a book and I start reading it. But it came to me that I think I read something or heard that our cells regenerate, and every 7 years our whole body is new, because all new cells. Then I said, well, then in that case, then I didn't just know Panyadeepa for 20 years. I've known Panyadeepa for 60 years. 3 Panyadeepas I came to know, and I was just thinking about that. I said 60 years is long enough to know anybody. And then it didn't seem like it was such a short time. It's had 3 times. So I said, like, time then is sort of like a manufactured thing. It's not a real thing, You can tell that by how fast time goes when you're doing something you like, and how slow time goes when you're doing something that you don't like, that is relative to something, So I'm thinking, wow, I had 60 years, that's a full life with Panyadeepa around, and his wisdom is just unfolding for me now. So many things that he said and that he did, and I was like, oh my goodness, Bodhisattva among us, and a lot of it is just coming to me, or I'm just getting it, And so I was thinking about that. So then I get an email from Busita, and she says, when I was doing my Yidam practice today, it came to me, and that I forgot how she said it, but it was like profound. Do you remember exactly what you said?
I said, if all is the ocean, then you wouldn't it be that you would have never been apart from Pine Deepa and you never will be?
Yeah, I'm like, wow, that's deep, like. So I'm thinking like 60 years, 3 times. I've just collapsed the time into 3 lifetimes, right? And then she comes like, no. When I guess you were speaking of the Dharmakaya, when we forward back into and recognize the Dharmakaya body, there is no birth and no death, because that's encapsulated in time. So she was saying, like, you've never been separated from and never will be separated from him. Like, that was good. Then I got an email from Dina. And Dina, I forgot what you said too, but it was
That I saw the whole universe expand, and I saw the whole universe contract. And in the midst of that, I briefly saw Panadita and understood the concept of no separation and all crossing the shore together.
do you see? I mean, can you see what's happening? What's happening here? This was just so spectacular to me. And so anyway, I was just really grateful at that moment for having encountered His Holiness Dorje Channing Buddha III, and for how he shifted our mind. And we were kicking and struggling too. And it was like you need to put all of that down. Here's the way to reality, and so I was just grateful for him today. And we wrote this song. Were you able to get it? Okay, so we wrote this song for Buddha Master last year. And you'd have to know him. He's a typical Chinese high master. Everything's so proper, and when you go into the assembly to see him, everybody runs and dives on the floor, and they're bowing. Everything is so formal, and and you're scared because he's reading your thoughts, and I mean, when he sees you, he knows everything about you, and all of this, And we're going to like, we wrote a song for you. Can we sing it? And they sang a song. They're going to sing a song in the temple. I'm like, yeah, we wrote this song for you. And he says, go ahead, you can sing it, And so he's sitting there all regal and royal and like this, And then all of a sudden you see him go. And then next thing he was like this. And then he was like, and I said, see, he know me. He knows us. And so it was wonderful. But I was just thinking about him today. So if you know the song, sing along with us. This was written by the Dharmacharyas, and we put the music together and everything. And I thought it was a great song. But God on a happy note.
When I'm living without hope, when my heart is hurt and my mind confused, calling me, I hear you calling me. When I'm living on the ropes, going down for the third time, I hear you calling me, I hear you calling me. You say, why be afraid of fall, surge and wait? There's just impermanent states of mind. And that once I'm free of false identity, because the master calls from afar. I hear you calling me, calling me. I hear you calling me, calling me.
There is a true unbinding of joy to be received.
When stainless vision rises and we stand undeceived,
Embracing circumstances, our heart to be relieved.
this is the end of suffering.
Feel like my eyes haven't seen much. Feel like my words don't mean much. From the dirt on the ground that my knees touch to the sky up above when I reach up, I hear a voice from the distance, and it's calling me to witness. If it's a part of you, it's a part of me. I hear you calling me.
Calling me, calling me, calling me, calling me. If you want wanna be saved, if you wanna be saved from your self-destructive ways, listen to the master. Calling, open to the master. Calling, 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 open to the master. Calling, 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 to the calling, calling.